What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So this year's Calder race, it's in the books. Connor Bedard's obviously going to win it. He's near point per game, even though he missed like 14, 15 games. It's in the bag. It's one of the best rookie seasons on a per game basis that we have ever seen in NHL history. So I thought it'd be a fun idea to go down the list of Calder winners, because obviously Calder goes to the best rookie, usually a guy that has a very promising future, and seeing how every single Calder winner since expansion has panned out in the NHL. Because obviously some guys, you think of Ovechkin, you think of McKinnon, they obviously lived up to expectations after having very good rookie years. But there's some other just completely random guys that won Calders we thought were going to be superstars and then never really panned out. So we're going to go through it right now from 1967. We're going to start earlier because I'm going to show you first off these guys. You all know these guys, what they're up to now. I don't need to tell you, like, Jeff Skinner's on the Buffalo Sabres right now after starting his career in Carolina. These are from post-lockout. And yeah, these are all names you kind of know. The only kind of random one is obviously Tyler Myers back in 2010. With his height and the great rookie year that he had, he was expected to be a future franchise defenseman. Obviously did not happen. One of the worst free agency signings of the entire 21st century, with the Vancouver Canucks. Also, Steve Mason didn't really have the most long, profound career when looking at him. He had some good seasons, but his rookie season, for the most part, was his best season overall. So we're going to start in 2004. I'm going to show you the ballot, and then we're going to go over like how the winner's career eventually panned out. So starting in 2004, the 2004 Calder race, it was Andrew Raycroft, then Michael Ryder, Trent Hunter, John Michael Lyles, Ryan Malone. I know Ryan Malone, but the 2 through 4, I had absolutely no clue who they are. But Andrew Raycroft had a fantastic rookie year, a .926 save percentage for the Boston Bruins. Let's go over to his overall career. 280 games played, 113 wins. Not that good of a career. He obviously peaked with that rookie year when looking at it in .926 and just never really found his footing. Had another 2 years, another full year as the full-time starter, only at an .894. This was his peak. Yeah, just one really good rookie year, and beyond that, didn't really do much. Definitely a disappointing all-time Calder winner. But that rookie year was genuinely like a Vezina caliber year, considering he played 57 games. And at a .926, 2003, maybe the worst Calder winner of all time when looking at it. Barrett Jackman, 3 goals, 16 assists, 19 points, a quintessential defensive defenseman. Usually don't see defensive defensemen win the goddamn Calder when looking at this. Zetterberg also had a very good first year, 22 and 22, but for a Calder level forward, that's an extremely disappointing stat line even in the dead puck era. Rick Nash debuted as an 19-year-old, had a solid 39 points, but when looking at Barrett Jackman, he never really panned out that much. He was a solid, again, defensive defenseman throughout his entire career. Again, played minutes like a top pair guy, but never passed 27 points in a season, only broke the 20-point mark twice in his entire career. So definitely probably the worst Calder winner of all time when looking at what he became. I mean, he was better than Andrew Raycroft, but that rookie season really wasn't anything remarkable, and it's not like he built off it that much when looking at the rest of his career. Just a solid, reliable top 4 guy. 2002, you're going to love 2002. Danny Heatley, all-star Danny Heatley, right out of the rip at 21 years old, 26 goals, 41 assists. Kovalchuk almost won it. I guess it wasn't that close, actually, 48-14 in terms of first place votes. But Kovalchuk, right after getting drafted, had almost 30 goddamn goals again in the dead puck era. But when looking at even Datsuk again, just an absolute stud, but didn't put up that much points. But Danny Heatley clearly had a fantastic prime, one of the best goal scorers in the entire NHL. In his prime, when looking at it, of course, Danny Heatley in 2009, you know the memes. He was a stud. He had horrible longevity in part because of some of like the off-ice stuff. But Danny Heatley was a fantastic player at his prime. Is what? Well, these were obviously his 2 years, but for 3 years, around at least 39 goals every single season, 444 points in 399 games. One of the best wingers of the entire 2000s when looking at him for sure. 2001, Evgeny Nabokov, one of the best rookie seasons by a goalie as well, had a .915, and I believe he played like 70 goddamn games. Brad Richards, we're going to go to Nabokov. He definitely built off this rookie year. Never was a Vezina winner, but had multiple elite seasons when looking at him. Consistently like 910, 921, 922, and he was an absolute workhorse. 77 games, 71 games. He actually was he was second in the entire 2000s in terms of wins. Martin Brodeur obviously was ahead of him, and then Luongo was third Nabokov was goddamn second in the entire decade in wins. He was a fantastic player. 2000, Y2K. Scott Gomez had 71 points. He was 20 years old. Scott Gomez was the man. Back with those New Jersey Devils teams, especially they won the cup with him. He was an absolute stud. He looked like a future franchise guy, especially after that rookie year. He was a solid number one center for a while, but once he obviously left New York, especially, he started to go downhill pretty rapidly. And by 32, he was kind of washed up for the most part. Had one resurgence year, but Scott Gomez, one of my childhood players, growing up in New Jersey. Obviously, I was 7 years old in 2007, but I remember the name Scott Gomez. I remember watching his highlights. Fantastic player, but never really reached the prime that we expected from Scott Gomez. 1999, Chris Drury, not just the Rangers general manager. He was kind of a baller back in his day. Again, pretty disappointing point totals, 44. Marion Host, damn, third place was goddamn 30 points. Milan Hedgeduke. Let's go to Drury. When looking at Drury, had a very solid career, 615 points. And yeah, he was a solid 60-ish point guy for multiple years. From let's get the stat numbers exactly. Basically, for a 6-year period, yeah, 420 points in 549 games. Very impressive. The dude had game. The New York Rangers could use someone like him. And obviously, he ended up finishing his career with the New York Rangers. That's in part why he ended up being in the New York Rangers organization and eventually, obviously, getting the job. Very good player. Not as good as other Calder winners, but a very good career for Chris Drury. In 1998, Sergei Samsonov, 19 years old, had 47 points. I honestly forgot who this guy was before I did this video. This is Matthias Oland, a defenseman, 30 points. Patrick Elias obviously went on to go have a potential Hall of Fame career. I think he might eventually get in one day. So when looking at it, my favorite player, Patrick Marleau, who I talked about earlier today. But Samsonov had a solid career, 571 points in 888 games. But actually, no, he got to 75 points. He was a solid first liner, but didn't have that great of longevity. Kind of fell off. Actually, no, he didn't. What am I talking about? He was a good player. He was a good first liner throughout. Obviously, didn't have that much longevity in terms of past the age of like 31, 32, but he was a good player throughout like the 2000s for the most part. Solid career, but nothing special for a Hart winner. 1997, Brian Berard. When looking at Berard, he obviously was an absolute stud. Went first overall. It's misleading considering he had one of the most gruesome eye injuries in like hockey history. They thought his career was going to be potentially over. So the fact that he was able to bounce back and eventually have some pretty solid seasons like 2004, he was looking like a future franchise defenseman. I think he would have been a future franchise defenseman. It's a damn shame what happened to him. But even with what happened to him, he bounced back pretty solid and ended up having an okay career. 1996, Daniel Alfredsson, Eric Days, Ed Jovanovski. Jovanovski obviously was a first-round pick. Daniel Alfredsson was a sixth-round pick, 133rd overall. Had a Hall of Fame career. I got inducted, 2-3 years ago. Fantastic player, and he just only got better, 61 points. And then basically for the early 2010s, or early 2000s, he was like a top 10 player in the entire NHL, maybe even sniffing top 5 again, dead puck every single season, especially this around here. Well, this was actually post dead puck, but even in the dead puck was around point per game. Very, very good player. 1995, Peter Forsberg, obviously one of the greatest in terms of like in their prime player of all time. 1995 was obviously the lockout shortened season for the NHL. They only played 48 games. So he had 50 points. He was point per game basically right out of the rip. Then his first season, did he win second season? He only finished 13th in the Hart. That damn scoring, I guess, was high in 1996. But 116 points. Then we'll go on to win the Hart in this season. 2-time Stanley Cup champ. One of the most prolific players in the entire NHL's history. Obviously dealt with some injuries at the end that derailed him from being a legitimate top 25 player in NHL history. He was fantastic. 1994, Martin Brodeur, another legend of the game. His rookie year, obviously 691 wins. I've said it before. I think this record might be harder to beat than the goddamn Wayne Gretzky record. When looking at it, Wayne Gretzky's record can be passed if NHL league scoring just continues to skyrocket. Goalies are playing less and less games every single season. And when looking at Martin Brodeur, obviously as a rookie, 1994, posted a solid 915. But this guy was playing 70-plus games every single year. Look at it from here on. Every single season, 70 goddamn games, 78 games. I'm not sure we'll ever see another goalie play 70 games, even like 60. Actually, Soros played like 67 a couple years ago, but 70 games, that's out of the, like, he's a top 3 goalie of all time. He gets called whatever, like a Devil's merchant because he had a fantastic defense score. I'm rather pro Martin Brodeur. Again, you don't be this much of a workhorse just because your defense is so fantastic. He was an absolute stud in his prime, no doubt. 1993, Teemu Selanne, the greatest rookie season of all time, of course. This guy ended up finishing with 684 career goals. One of the greatest players, one of the greatest pure goal scorers of all time, 76. Led the NHL in his goddamn rookie year when a bunch of studs were still playing in the NHL, a bunch of legends. Had 2 other seasons where he led the NHL. He was a generational, I would argue a generational goal scoring talent. When this guy was locked in, he just was fantastic. Even at 36 years old, he was still scoring 48 goals. The Finnish Flash, just a stud. Just an overall stud. I got to stop saying stud. 92, Pavel Bure, back-to-back just goal-scoring machines. When looking at him, obviously he had his career cut short a little bit. 437 goals in 702 games. 3-time goal leader, similar to Selanne. Yeah, this guy, when he was healthy, was absolutely money. Led the Vancouver Canucks in 1994 to the Stanley Cup final, where they would obviously lose. Was great in Florida. His rookie year, 36 goals in 65 games, on pace for over 40 goals. That's absolutely ridiculous. Ed Belfour, ooh, another legend. Okay, that's impressive. Where did we just go? We went Belfour. What was the last? Yeah, Belfour, Bure, Selanne, Brodeur, goddamn Forsberg, and Alfredson. That is a nuts, considering in the early 2000s we were talking about Jackman and Raycroft. That is a nuts run. But Ed Belfour, obviously 484 wins. I think that's like 4th or 5th all time. But looking at him in his rookie season, he won the goddamn Vezina. Like that's insane. 3rd place Hart finish. He won, I believe, another Vezina. Yeah. Was he a 2-time Vezina winner? Yeah, he won the Vezina also in this season, in his goddamn 3rd full season in the NHL, and just was a great player throughout his entire career, and was starting 58 goddamn games when he was 41 years old. That is so impressive. And as a result, I think I personally have him as like a top 10 goalie of all time. Wasn't on like, obviously, actually he won the cup in 1999, but early on really carried some of those Chicago teams, him and like Jeremy Roenick. Next up, we got 1990. Sergei Makarov won over Modano, Roenick, Brindamore, Recchi, Dave Snuggerud. I think that should be Snuggerud's dad, but that's insane. Four. I mean, Roenick isn't in the Hall of Fame right now. Brindamore is in the Hall of Fame. I'm talking about, but like 4 Hall of Fame level players, and they ended up going to Makarov, who was 31 years old. All right, so yeah, maybe obviously now you can't be over the age of like 25, 26, but a 31-year-old walked in and had 86 points. Damn, Modano must have been fucking pissed. The goddamn 19-year-old puts up 75. That's like the memes about like Ben Simmons winning the goddamn rookie of the year, but he was like still like 20 years old. Makarov, let's see what this guy looks like. Makarov, yeah, late defector. That makes sense. A very good first liner until he was eventually out of the league, basically, 36, 37. That's interesting. I forgot about him, but that is really impressive. 86, right out of Russia. 89, Brian Leetch. Ooh, that's impressive. Brian Leetch, obviously, this is a weak group overall. I don't even remember these guys for the most part. Joe Sakic, obviously, is a stud, but Brian Leetch, when looking at Brian Leetch, 2-time Norris winner, over 1,000 career points. Yeah, he was just absolutely money for the New York Rangers for a long, long time, as you can see there. All-star teams galore. Conn Smythe in 1994. One of the best top 10 defensemen of all time, no doubt. Over to 1998, we got Joe Nieuwendyk, who put up 92 points and 50 goals in his goddamn rookie year. Maybe he should have been on my top 10 rookie seasons of all time list. When looking at him, he's obviously Hall of Famer. I kind of forgot he won the Conn Smythe in 1999 on the Dallas Stars. But yeah, he was a beast right out of the gate. 51 goals, then 45 and 50, 45 and 45. Yeah, he peaked. Jesus, that is an insane. I guess he was 23 by then. It's not like he debuted at 18, but just a very highly effective player, and as a result, he's in the goddamn Hall of Fame. 1986, 87, I mean. Luc Robitaille, Ron Hextall, pretty impressive one too. Robitaille, obviously one of the better goal scorers in NHL history. Hall of Famer, 666 career goals. When looking at him, he peaked, obviously, with Wayne Gretzky, 63 goals, 62 assists. Was an all-star basically every single year early on in his career. One of the most prolific goal scorers in the NHL history, and then obviously eventually got his Stanley Cup with the Detroit Red Wings. Fantastic player that built on an already loaded rookie year, 84 points, 45 goals. 1986. Gary Suter. When looking at Gary Suter, he's actually, his nephew is Ryan Suter. I was like, is he a brother? No, the nephew of Ryan Suter. When looking at him, just a very, very good, he's a defenseman, right? Yeah, very, very good defenseman for a solid like 5-6 year stretch. Or five, yeah, all-star level defenseman for like 5 straight years. Very, very good, 70-ish points. Was playing at a very high scoring era, but still a fantastic player. Fringe. You can make an argument that he should be a Hall of Famer. 844 points, but era adjusted, it is a little bit it's not as impressive considering that he did play in a very high scoring era. 1985, Mario Lemieux and Chris Chelios. Again, a decent 1-2 here. Mario Lemieux had 100 points in his rookie year, 43 goals, 57 assists, then would go on to win the goddamn Pearson the next year with 141 points, runner up for the Hart. And by year 3 was setting year 3 and 4 and 5 was setting goddamn NHL records. 1984, I had to refresh all my tabs and update them. Tom Barrasso, Steve Yzerman, Turgeon. When looking at Barrasso, he won the Vezina in his first season. He played 42 games with the Buffalo Sabres, won the Vezina. The second year he was the Vezina runner-up, 2 other Vezina runner-ups in his entire career. Got into the Hall of Fame last year, has how many career wins? 369. Well-deserved finally getting that Hall of Fame nod, obviously. Very, very good player. Obviously, his rookie year was his best year. So pretty interesting. 1983, Steve Larmer won over Phil Housley and Scott Stevens, 2 other Hall of Famers. Steve Larmer would go on to have a very good career, 1,012 career points. When looking at him, definitely not as good as Scott Stevens and Phil Housley, but a very, very good 80 to 90, even hit 100 points one year, 5th place in the goddamn Hart. Very, very good player, fringe Hall of Famer. I'm sure he's not going to get in at this point, but very impressive for Steve Larmer. Dale Hawerchuk obviously went first overall, went on to have a Hall of Fame career. Looking at him, 1,400 career points. Very, very good. When looking at it, multiple 100-plus point seasons right out of the rip. 2nd place Hart finish, a 5th place Hart finish, 6th, 7th. Right out of the gate, he was legitimately like a top 10 player in the entire NHL. 1981, Peter Stastny, the other guy that was next level elite right out of the gate. 109 points. Larry Murphy, obviously great as well. When looking at Peter Stastny, though, 100 points, 109, and then would have 139 the next season, finished 4th in the Hart. 177 because he played 64 games, then back to 100. No doubt Hall of Famer. And again, this guy came over at 24 years old. And he still finished with 1,200 career points in only 977 games. If he debuted at 18-19, we could be talking about legitimately 1,600 career points. 1980, Raymond Bourque, pretty decent. Raymond Bourque, obviously, how many Norrises did he win? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as well as being like 2nd place another 3 times, a finalist, 3rd place another like 4 times. The third greatest defenseman of all time, in my opinion, only behind Bobby Orr and Lindstrom, because those guys are just, their trophy cases are so goddamn insane. And obviously, he won his first Stanley Cup back in 2001 in his final season. 1979, Bobby Smith had a solid career, about point per game his entire career. Again, this was during a higher scoring era, but still very impressive nonetheless. Around the 114 points one season, multiple seasons in the 90s. Very good for Bobby Smith. 1977, Mike Bossy, my guy, my GOAT. He is my GOAT. 573 goals in 752 games. I believe, yes, that is still the highest goals per game mark in NHL history. It is a little bit boosted because he didn't have like a decline because he retired when he was still elite because he had so much back problems overall. So when looking at Mike Bossy, 2-time Rocket winner back when they didn't have the Rocket. Just a damn shame because he played at the same time as his prime basically overlapped with I was about to say Sidney Crosby, with Wayne Gretzky. So he was never able to really rack up a ton of individual awards because he was going up against the most dominant player of all time, but in a different universe. He was born with the skill set that he had and got the training. If he was debuted in 1969 instead, he'd probably have 2 Hearts or something like that. If he was battling with Lafleur and goddamn Tony Phillips Pozito. Next up, 1977. This is a long-ass video. Willie Plett back in 1977. 56 points in 64 games. Very impressive, but really wasn't much past that. Best season, 38 goals, 30 assists. Finished with 437 points, but pretty disappointing for a Calder winner, especially when we got all those legends prior. 1976, Brian Trottier. When looking at Trot's beast, 1,400 career points over that. Hart winner, his 4th season, another Hart finish, Hart runner-up. He is a top 40 player of all time, no doubt, in my opinion. I know I'm a little bit biased, but even when he went to the Pittsburgh Penguins, immediately wasn't a star anymore, but immediately won 2 Stanley Cups with them. And as a result, he has some of the most Stanley Cups in the entire NHL history when looking at it. 6-time winner. 1975, Eric Vale. Eric Vale, okay career, 476 points in 591 games. Good rookie year, 39 goals. That'll win you the goddamn Calder. But beyond that, 1 point per game season, and was out of the NHL by like 28 years old. 1974, Potvin. The Islanders are racking. They won, 3 in like 5 years? It's very impressive. Potvin, obviously one of the greatest defensemen of all time. For me, he's a top 25 player of all time. 3-time Norris. In his prime was point per game, 100.1 season. Look at this. All-star, first team All-NHL, first team All-NHL, second team All-NHL, first team. Just an absolute beast. The defensive backbone to the goddamn dynasty. 1973, Steve Vickers, a Ranger and then an Islander, won it in back-to-back years. Vickers, 53 points in 61 games. Pretty solid. 80 points multiple times. Was out of the NHL by 33, but overall, a very solid career. 1972, Ken Dryden obviously famously won the Conn Smythe before he even won the goddamn Calder. 5-time Vezina. In terms of goalie dominance, he might arguably could be the most dominant goalie of all time. Won 5 Vezinas in 7 full seasons. He's absolutely disgusting. He was on like an absolute dynasty, but in his own right, in my opinion, you can make a strong argument for him being the 4th greatest goalie of all time. Over to 1971, Gilbert Perreault. When looking at him, Buffalo legend, played every single season in Buffalo. Right out of the gate, 72 points in 78 games, 38 goals. Hit 100 a couple times. Fantastic player. Definitely got buried on Buffalo considering they weren't that. Well, let's look at his playoff stats, actually, so I don't talk out of my ass. They had a couple runs, but beyond that, didn't really win it. Obviously didn't win a Stanley Cup, but one of the better players in the 1970s. 1970, Tony Esposito. He also won a Vezina in his goddamn rookie year as a won the did I say we won the Calder as a rookie? Won the Vezina as a rookie, 2nd place in the goddamn Hart. 2 other Vezinas rather early on. So when looking at him, he's about on the same level as Ken Dryden for me. I'd probably put Ken Dryden higher, but in my opinion, he's pretty easily a top 10 goalie of all time. 423 wins, as well as 3 goddamn Vezinas. Very, very good. Danny Grant, we got 2 more to go. I'm tired. You're tired. We'll get through this. Danny Grant, 536 points in 736 games, 65 points as a rookie. Solid, good first liner for most of his career. Then obviously fell off a bit down here. Okay career. And then lastly, we got Derek Sanderson, the grandpa of Jake Sanderson. I just made that up out of my ass. He's not related to Jake Sanderson, but he had 47 points in 71 games as a rookie. Wasn't really that much beyond. Actually, 29. He fell off a little bit here, but then 69 points in 65 games. Okay career. Really nothing special. 1967 was actually Bobby Orr. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this rundown? Who were you surprised to see win the Calder Trophy? And I'll be seeing the next one. I'm tired.